Hola, friends and neighbors. Steve here. On a rainy, chilly March morning, driving back south after dropping kids off at school, thought I would make a quick little video. Sometimes I think about stuff I've done in the past, and I was thinking this morning about Crossroads, which is the pro-life organization that I started back in 1995 while I was a college student at Franciscan University. And just thought I would share a few details about kind of how that came together and how that ended up having some success, and even to this day has been successful, which I could never have foreseen back then. But so I kind of started with meeting a few students who had put in time, I think maybe on an internship level or whatever, with some Washington DC based pro-life groups. That was all obviously pretty new to me back then. And I thought, wow, that's pretty cool. They get to work for these groups. And I know this is going to be a shock to everybody who knows me, but I started thinking, I wonder what I could do on my own. And I didn't do that on purpose. I don't know. That's just kind of part of my personality. And I didn't have anything against those organizations or the people or anything like that. I thought it was all awesome. That was great. And I went to my first March for Life back then, got on the bus, and sorry, I'm hitting some bumps. But I then, after that first, I think it was like I put in a semester that year as a freshman. And I had already been up to Alaska to work the previous season, and I was going back. So I went back to Alaska after the school year was over. And I just thought a lot about that subject, about, the whole abortion horror and the people who were trying to do something about it. And so I was sitting on a forklift up near the docks that I was working at, and initially just the thought occurred to me that I wanted to do something that was pretty active and public. And I thought about biking across the country, because for years growing up I wanted to bike across the country. I'd thought about doing that so many times when I was, a teenager or whatever. I wanted to do that because I wasn't like a massive cycler, but I really liked that kind of stuff back then. And but for some reason that seemed like, no, that would be too fast. It would kind of come and go, and I thought the better thing would be to walk across. So that's what I kind of had in my mind for, I don't know, about a year, maybe 2 years, that I kind of just noodled on that. And I didn't really talk about it with anybody. I just kind of thought about it here and there. And then one night, I think I might have been a junior. No, I think it was the end of sophomore year. I don't remember exactly, but I was studying for a philosophy test with a buddy of mine, and we got into the discussion about abortion. The question was, what can we do? What could we possibly do? I'm like, I got an idea. So I told him what I was thinking. And we agreed that night that we were going to do it, that we were going to figure out how to make it happen. And so, we did, and it kind of became all consuming for the rest of that school year. I think that was 94, toward the end of 94. And so then we started the next semester. I don't know. How did that go? August, September. And I think we used that year to figure it out, if I remember correctly. And we just started telling people. We had some meetings. We just did all the things that you would do to figure out how to make something like that work. And we had to raise money, start looking for ways to raise money, and the money started coming in, and not lots, but enough to get started. We didn't have enough to finish when we started, that's for sure. We had enough to get started, and so there wasn't anything that was going to stop us. And then the guys and the girls that joined us, I think the total was not 10 people. We started with 9 and ended up with 10, and a great family out in California who I'll always remember for my whole life. Gave us an RV, nice 34, I think it was a 34 footer. And everything just came together as we were moving closer and closer. We wanted to do it, started in May, and we wanted to walk from San Francisco to Washington, D.C. And I don't remember exactly. It might have just been the practical fact that the RV was in the San Francisco area. I don't remember exactly why we picked San Francisco, but I think it has had to do with the people and the resources. But we knew we wanted to move from west to east and go to Washington, D.C. and, go to the Capitol building. And so that began kind of a long walk across the country, but then a long kind of history of repeating this each year. I never walked it again myself. I did it that year, and then I managed it for 5 years, and then I handed that off. But making that first trip was, it's crazy because of where technology is today and how ubiquitous it all is. But we had one cell phone that was about the size of a coffee maker, and we never used it. I don't think we used it once. I think we tried to use it once, but it was like $100 a minute, and the thing never worked, and there was no coverage zones, whatever. It just was dumb. So we would just use payphones when we went from town to town. And we didn't have any credit cards or debit cards to spend money. We were raising money. People were sending money to our P.O. box that we created, and that was being converted into traveler's checks, and then those were being mailed out to us to post offices in the next town that we were going to get to. And so that's how we did it. And we had a pretty designated driver for the RV, very good friend of mine who's now deceased, God rest his soul. But he stepped up to drive the whole summer. And we kind of formulated this team and just, figured it out. There was no precedent. We didn't know of anybody who had done it before. I'm sure somebody did, but we didn't have anybody pointing the way. We just had to figure it out. And I remember we got lost on the first day. We got lost, and we were using paper maps, and we literally got so lost that we had to climb a fence to get to wherever it is we were going. And so that first day wasn't super impressive to the group. I was like, we're going this way, and we figured it out, like you do if you keep persevering. And that's I guess maybe another lesson from from Crossroads. It's just, you got to persevere with things even when they don't go the way you're hoping they will. You've got to press on, and we did. We did that as a team. We had our ups and downs. We had amazing experiences, happy ones and sad ones, and probably would have to say that that was a period. That summer was probably the most memorable I've ever had in my life. Lots of good ones since and before, but that stands out for obvious reasons. It was a very unusual thing to do, but for some reason I just knew that it needed to be done, and we had a lot of opportunities to speak on the radio and to do talks. We went to a lot of churches. That's one way that we raised some money, and it just worked. And we walked day and night. At first, we all walked as a group, mostly in the daytime, and but we soon figured out after a few weeks that we needed to pick up our pace, or we weren't going to make our destination on schedule. I think we had to be, that first year, we had to be to DC, I think it was August 20th, and school was obviously starting again very soon after that, so we had a deadline to meet. But we took it easy, and we ramped our way into it, and the group had done a lot of prep work before we started. We started doing some different physical training, because it's a lot to walk all day every day. It's we were putting in 20, 25, 30 miles a day. We were walking a lot. I think my longest mileage day was 38 miles, and but that was nowhere near the record, because another guy put in 54 miles in a 24-hour period. He was a little nuts. Just kidding. He was a good friend of mine. But anyway, 54 miles. That's a long haul. But we figured out that we needed to start breaking it up in two groups. So we had a day group and a nighttime group, and we had a separate vehicle in addition to our RV. We had a vehicle that was given to us, and so a driver would remain close to the group, daytime or nighttime. You're generally pulling up maybe every 5 miles to make sure that everybody was safe, and so that's how it worked. And the RV would pull ahead to the next campsite. Did a lot of outdoor sort of KOA type camping, and staying at people's houses, and staying in churches, like staying in a church gymnasium or whatever, stuff like that. And we would just show up. We had no plan. They didn't call ahead. We just knocked on the church door and said, "Can we stay here tonight?" And told them what we were doing, and we did that across the entire country. And so that's how it went. And then experienced the very different weather patterns that this country has in the summer. The West being much cooler and no humidity, and then getting past the Rocky Mountains into blistering heat. We crossed the state of Kansas, and it got so hot. It was late July. It got so hot, 115 degrees, that we had to stop walking during the day for a little while, because it just became too much. So we did our walking at night then. I'm talking like asphalt, right? That's so hot that the soles of your shoes are starting to melt to a certain extent. They weren't like melting like ice cream, but they were definitely distorted because of the heat. And we got, 1,000 sunburns that summer. But anyway, so that's kind of an interesting little tale. Love looking back on those days. So if anybody has any thoughts or questions, by all means, shoot me a note. We'll see you again.